Hello everybody. In accordance to the project name Reborn for this 1974 Chevy Nova, I'm constantly looking for ways to improve on its original design, on how it was from back in 1974. Since now we have gotten accustomed to a lot of the features of the newer cars, the modern cars, I'm no exception. And so I am constantly looking for ways to adapt things from the modern world to this Chevy Nova, therefore making it a reborn car, and also making it, you know, pretty much better than what it was. So one of those things is the fact that the idea behind the Nova, after it's fully complete, is going to be a driver. Basically, I want to be able to drive it anywhere and not have it as a show queen or trailer queen or whatever they call it when you just keep the car in the garage. I want to be able to drive it. I mean, I'm putting all this work into it. I definitely want to enjoy it. And so as I kind of picture myself driving the car and trying to kind of imagine all the places that I will be going and all the situations that I will be coming up against in the Chevy Nova, I thought about one area in particular that I definitely needed improvement on. And so let's show you that right now. Okay, so now let's show you what I'm referring to. One of the things that I worked on when I was putting the engine bay together was moving the wiper motor from its original location, which is somewhere around here, and I moved it over to behind the fender. And that was so that the firewall can be nicely smoothed out and look nice and clean. Now, obviously when I did that, I had to redo the wiper motor hinge setup that connects over to the actual wipers. So I had to elongate that. So that was the first modification I had to do. Now the second modification involves, well, when you're driving, you're going to come across rain. And here in California, at least what I experienced, when it rains hard at night. But when it rains during the day, it doesn't really rain that hard. In fact, it's mostly drizzle or intermittent rain. Well, with that word intermittent, well, the modern cars today, they have intermittent wipers. Well, the Chevy Nova in 1974 didn't come with that. So that had to change. And that's what I'm referring to as far as the modification. Now I'll turn the key on, and I'll turn the wiper motor on, which is right here, and this is what it does in the first speed. Constantly moving. And on the second speed, it just moves faster. That's it. It just has two speeds. Modern cars today have multiple speeds. So now I had to tackle that. And to do that, I needed to first figure out how the wiper motor switch is connected to give power to the wiper motor. Because I wanted to figure out a way to get the wiper motor to work intermittently, but in order to do that, I had to work with current. And I had to figure out how the current goes to the motor so that I can manipulate it to do the intermittent operation. The other thing that I had to figure out was the fact that when you shut it off, these wipers actually have a park feature, which means as soon as you shut it off, wherever the wipers are, it will complete a full cycle and go back to the bottom of the windshield. So all those things had to be figured out. Okay, so I had to work on figuring out how the wiper motor got its power and how it got its ground, because obviously power and ground will activate the motor. So here's what I found out after doing my research. The motor and the washer pump gets its power as soon as you turn the key to the on position. So when the car is on, the motor and the pump automatically has power, but they don't turn on. They only turn on when you activate the switch. So The switch itself provides the ground. So the switch is the grounding unit. The wiper motor has 2 speeds, so there's 2 wires that need to be grounded in order to get to have the 2 speeds. And then the windshield washer pump needs its own ground as well. Now, what I was worried about was getting the wiper motor to do a cycle. Now, as I stated, the wiper motor has a park feature, which means when it completes a cycle, it automatically parks itself. Even if it didn't complete its cycle, if you shut it off in the middle of a cycle, it will still complete its cycle. So, after doing my research on how that grounding unit, which is the switch, works, I will explain how it works. Basically, there's 2 wires. There's a low and a high. When you ground the low, the motor will operate in its low position. When you ground both the low and the high, the motor will work in the high position. When you keep both the high and the low together and release the ground, then you get the park feature. And that was the key. Getting the park feature was what I needed to activate in order for me to get intermittent wiper setup. So I needed to figure out a way to get that park feature to activate and deactivate. And I had to do it with ground. Now, to make that work is basically I need to flash the ground. So I hook the ground to the low and then quickly release it. When you put when you put ground to the low, the motor will want to work. When you release the ground, the motor will want to park. So if I go through that manually, I can actually make my wiper setup do an intermittent operation. So I had to figure out how to get that to flash, and I thought about potential meters and things of that nature, and after doing countless hours of research, I found a place in Bangkok, Thailand, that actually make an intermediate module, and it's basically a circuit already made that I can use for this purpose. And I'll show you that right now. Excuse me. So this is the module. This is the setup. Basically, it's really small, and it has 5 areas where you can add wires, and then here is the part here that varies the current. So basically, there's a positive, there's a ground, and then there's 3 more where a combination of any of the 3 will get a different operation. The center of the 3 has to get either ground or power, your choice. In my case, I needed ground. So this setup will have a dual ground, and you can see here I have the yellow one is ground, the blue one is positive, and this red one is ground. It's going towards the center. So ground, I would ground out the first 2, okay? I mean these 2, the center one and the negative, and then add an additional wire to go to the wiper motor setup. In this case, I would join this with the low speed on the wiper motor switch that's in the car. So let me show you how it operates. I'm going to put it all together, add some current with my battery charger, and we'll get to see how this works. So I got it all hooked up, and let me remove the camera off the tripod for a second. I got it all hooked up. Basically, I have the ground attached there, and then I have the positive here. And I got one of these lights here that's going to show me when I get power to my light. Now, basically, here's the setup. Let me zoom out. And you can hear the click. Every time it clicks, the little light would turn on. So when I increase the potential meter, it increases the speed at which it shoots out the current. And then I'll go all the way to low. There it is. So that's the speed on the all the way low, and I already showed you all the way high. Now the difference between these three connections at the end is the fact that one turns on and one turns off. So let me put you back on the tripod and show you this operation. Give it a little zoom. Now I want the unit to turn off. Basically I want ground to be the one that turns on and not the power. So wherever you hook the center up to, that's what's going to affect the outer connections. So in this case I hooked mine to ground and I want it to turn on. So the first one here is to turn on and the one over here is to turn off. So we have ground, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little light here to straight up power, which is the first one. And you can see that to complete the circuit for this light I need ground. So this is my grounding wire, which is what is needed for my setup in the windshield wiper intermittent idea that I had. So every time this clicks, it will send ground, therefore turning on my light. So you can see there, and that's basically how it works. If I was to do it the other way and use this side, well, what would happen is the light would always stay on, and whenever the unit would click, the light would shut off. So there you have it. That's my intermittent wiper setup. Now there was one problem with this wiper setup. Let me just shut this off and then we'll get to that problem. Okay, so the problem with this tiny little unit is the fact that you can see that the potential meter, the thing where I actually can adjust the speed at which it clicks, is just basically kind of dangling there, which makes this thing very flimsy. Very, very flimsy. So now this unit does not come with a casing. So when you don't have something and you need something, in my case, you make it. So I needed to make a case for this. So I went to Home Depot and spent a good hour in Home Depot walking through every single aisle to see if I can get an idea to make something for this unit, so that it's completely encased, and also to ensure that none of this stuff will be exposed to the elements, and of course build some strength so that this doesn't break off. So I went to Home Depot and I found these two things. This is in the electrical department, and then this was in where it's just a bracket where you can hook up two beams together or two pieces of wood together. And the idea is, well, this thing, this switch, fits perfectly inside, as you can see. Now to protect the switch, I took my daughter's foam, where they have foam to, you know, for their projects, and I took it and I cut it out so that it fits on the inside to give a little cushion for my unit, okay, and a little bit of protection. So I got that. And so the idea is I need to make this a complete casing. So this here, this bracket, is going to be what I'm going to use to actually drill a hole and make the support for this potentiometer. And it's basically going to be like this. Now I know it doesn't look like anything now, but you will soon see what my plans are as far as building a casing. So basically this here will be the support. This here will encase the entire unit, and then on top I'm going to have a sheet of plexiglass, so basically like that, and that is so that I can actually see the unit itself And then of course, because it has a little light, I'll be able to see when it's flashing, therefore ensuring that it's operating. So that's the idea, and that's what I'm going to be working on.